Yeah, he talked to me earlier today to let me know that he was going to be, so I think we're good with him. So tell me how the
Okay.
last week has gone.
This has not been a great week, actually.
I'm sorry, it has not? It has not?
It has not.
Okay.
It's just I haven't felt good all week. It's just,
Oh,
you know, couldn't
right,
get it together all week.
right, right. What's been the problem? I mean, is it too much binge drinking?
Oh, I wish. I wish it was something fun.
Yeah.
I think it's allergies, and
Uh, got it.
I've
Got it.
I've been injured since the first of the year, and I can't quite get over it.
So what
Pain.
exactly? I think you'd mentioned that before, but so what exactly do you mean by injured?
I broke my foot,
Oh,
and so I
okay.
was in a boot. And while I was in the
Yeah.
boot, right before I got the boot off, I tried to do the splits. I
Is that
slipped.
because you were
I
trying to
haven't been,
compete for something?
no, I slipped. I haven't done the split since last century, and I shouldn't
Wow.
have tried this time.
Right. I
So
don't blame you.
it's started out as a groin injury, and I think it's kind of moved into my hip and my back. And
Oh
it's
no.
just, it's just in the pits. It's just blech. You ever
Right.
have
No,
those
I'm with
just
you.
blech times?
I have.
And I'm
I
tired of
have.
it.
For me, the only way that I get out of those is I force myself to do something that that I know makes me feel better. And for me, that was always, in this case, you can't do it, but for me, it was always exercise. When I have those blah
Right.
days or times, I just go, you know what? I need to leave. I'm going. I tell my wife and the kids, I'm like, I'm out. I need to go. Especially if I miss
Yeah.
it for, a couple weeks. But no, I know exactly how you feel. I mean, diet has a big thing to do with it, exercise, plus,
Yeah.
value that you put into yourself. I mean, how much time do you spend really taking care of, the mental health of yourself? A lot of us forget
Right.
that. We don't spend any
Oh,
time
yeah.
trying to build up our intellect. We always just tend to take what we learned in 10 years ago, and we continue to ride on that for for the rest of our life. And unfortunately, a lot of the blah that I get sometimes comes from the fact that I feel like I'm not being stimulated.
Yeah. There's that. I wish and if I have one thing to do during the day,
Yeah.
it'll take me all day to do it.
Oh no.
If I have 20 things to do, I can get 25 done. You know what I mean?
Right. 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 No, it's all about priorities. I totally am with you there.
It's just a really, I just really need to be busy and get out of this
Nope.
funk mood.
I'm with you. I'm with you. So tell me a little bit about how business is going.
Well, it's really slow. And I didn't get to my list this week either, like I was going to for you.
How come?
I I didn't even think about it, to be perfectly honest. I
Well,
told you
that's
it's been a
honest.
blech week.
Yeah.
I know Tony is out doing all kinds of things, but I don't know that we're seeing the fruit from his labors yet. And
Nope. And that's what we talk about on a regular basis, he and I.
yeah.
So let me ask you, why, I mean, you get, well, you said hope so last time, but do you know if you get compensated more for closing your own loans?
Well, it's going to change because he's going to put me on a salary. So no, I
Okay.
won't.
Okay. Okay. So there's really no incentive for you to go out there and originate your own loans.
Right.
Okay. Is that something that you should probably revisit? I mean, whether you're on a salary or not, just being able to provide additional, I mean, there's got to be an incentive to originate your own loans. And I'm just curious because if you do have a database and you have relationships that remember you and trust you and like you, I'm surprised why you wouldn't.
Right. Yeah, I should. I really should.
Well, I mean, it's not even a matter of should. I look at myself and I go, if there was a chance for me to add more financial bottom line to my life, and I was given an opportunity to do that. Like right now, like you said, you're not seeing the fruits of Tony's labor yet, so therefore the business hasn't picked up. In the interim between now and when that starts to happen, the market right now is poised for practically anybody and everybody that has a home that hasn't, well, I mean, I would imagine that everybody that you bump into in the street or even out and about or in conversation on Facebook or wherever is a client. And if your goal is simply just to, exist in the, in the group that you're in with Bert and Tony, then by no means. But I look at any time that you can create value yourself for yourself and help the team out, because it gives a loan to Bert to help process.
That's true. I know it is. I need to get there. When I came over here, I didn't want to originate anymore.
Okay, now we're being real.
Yeah, exactly.
Now we're being honest.
That's part of the reason I took this job, is I didn't want to originate anymore.
Right.
I didn't want to go talk to realtors.
Right.
I didn't want to go begging for loans.
And if you have that mindset, you'll never want to do it. So I totally understand. I totally get it.
I have a database of people I could probably do refinances for.
Right.
And that's what I should be looking at.
I totally agree. You could probably spend 2 hours a day. You could probably spend 2 hours a day for the next week, and if you have enough of a database, you could probably stir up at least 3 or 4 transactions, I would think.
Yep, I would think so too, and that's what I should do. In fact, that's what I will do.
And to be honest, we talk about the funk, and some of the greatest struggles that we face has less to do with us physically and more to do with us mentally. And when you get past the yuckiness of what you call it, and get out there and do something that adds value to either somebody or to yourself, man, it all of a sudden starts to change. The world has an energy, or the world around us vibrates, and when we're not plugging into it, we miss out on that vibration, and we're kind of left to our own devices. I can't even begin to tell you that maybe exactly for the reason why you're saying you're not feeling well might be physical, but I would believe a large percentage of it would change if you were feeling like you were adding value or being given value by people that you already know, like, and trust, but just aren't making the effort to connect with them. Because I don't think you're out and about. If you're injured, I don't see you out being social. I think you're kind of confined within the 4 walls of the home that you live in, and you're not really going out there and experiencing the world around you right now.
Yeah, and it's really on my nerves. It's on my last good nerve. That's all right, well,
Lynn, and I'm going to tell you right now, and this may be the entire message of the call. You really need to make a point to make an effort to get out and connect with people. I don't care if it's for loans or not. You being an isolated confinement or solitary confinement, or being isolated from everything else, man, you're like a plant without sunshine.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't see you as being an introvert. I don't see you as being somebody who's very meek. I don't see you being somebody who's very passive.
Oh.
So the fact that you've been struggling with this for the past 8 months, come on, Linda, let's get up and do this.
Get your ass together, I know.
Get your ass together, damn right. Let's go. So I need you to make a commitment to me.
I will make a commitment to you, Doug.
I want you to make a commitment to me that you're going to go and do 2 things in the next 7 days before we talk again that revolve around you getting out of the house and being around people.
I will.
And I'm not talking chores. I'm not talking grocery shopping or things of that nature. I'm talking get out.
Get out.
Get out and find some vibration. Find some vibes. Go feel them.
I will do that.
So talk to me. So let's talk a little bit about what happens during the week when you guys are slow. What does your day look like? What
do I do?
Yeah.
I answer emails. I follow up with clients. There's not that many of them to follow up with. I talk to Bert.
No.
I don't work. It's not not been a full 8-hour deal. You know, I've been taking some classes. I've been working on his Jungo stuff. You know, I do.
But it's fair to say that we're not getting, you're not putting in 8 hours.
No, not a solid 8. No.
Okay. Right now you get paid a commission on every loan that closes, or you get a salary?
Yeah, I get a commission off of Tony's pipeline.
Okay.
Which is,
and when does the salary kick in?
October 1st.
Okay. I tell you what, if I was in your shoes, I would be burning up the phones today and tomorrow. I mean, I would be having casual conversations with people just about life. I mean, how many people do you have in your database?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
If you had to guess.
250, 300.
Okay. How many of those people have talked to you in the last 6 months?
20.
Okay. So there's 250 some odd people or so that haven't talked to you. And do any of them know what's going on in your life?
No.
Okay. So none of them know that you have moved companies or changed career paths.
Right. So that's an email and a phone conversation I need to have with those people.
I would tell you it's not even an email. I'm going to tell you right now that it's a phone conversation.
Call. Yeah.
And here's what I've learned in my career. It's been any time that I have the time to pick up the phone and have a conversation, I don't necessarily need to know what I'm going to talk about. I just need to be open to having a conversation with somebody.
Right.
And more than likely, the person who answers the phone will engage in the conversation more than you will, only because you reached out to them.
Right.
And people love getting phone calls that aren't solicitors, work, spouses. I mean, let's be clear with ourselves. You're not calling people up to solicit them for a mortgage. That's not at all what you're doing. You're calling up to make a connection to go, it's been a while, I missed talking to you, shame on me. I just want to let you know that I've moved companies, and I was wondering if it would be okay if I kept you on my database and sent you my new contact information. That's it. And in that conversation, of course you can do it. Linda, there's nothing you can't do. You've been in the business long enough that I can't believe that there's anything you wouldn't do.
I know. Yeah. I got to get me back.
The reality is that I'm not talking about being a loan officer or an originator anymore. I'm talking about making connections for your mental health as much as it might be for your financial health. The mental health part of it is, good God, do you know how good it's going to feel just to talk to people and let them just give you boosts of ego? You know, and I'll be honest with you, Mr. or Mrs. Client, I moved, and lo and behold, I tried doing the splits twice this year, and it hasn't fared out well, and whatever it is that you want to share with them. But the point is that engaging in that conversation with somebody is what helps you build up a positive outlook. And the first couple of people that really engage in a conversation with you, you're going to be like, why didn't I do this sooner?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I know everything you're saying is true. I know that.
I'm not saying that I'm telling you something you don't know. I'm saying this because I need to remind you to get off your duff and do it.
Exactly. Exactly.
I would have a conversation with Tony and go, listen, I've got 250 people in my database. I'm going to call 20 of them a day or 10 of them a day. I don't care how many, but you're going to knock them out in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And any loans that I get out of that, you need to work out a compensation plan that works for you. Because that's going to bring money into the team. It's going to bring money to Tony, and it's going to make everybody happy. You've got 200 and some odd people that you should be reaching out to, and honestly, even if it's 10 people a day, you're going to make connections with people, and you would be amazed at how many people will love to hear from you.
Right.
Is there a single reason why you wouldn't be able? Is there a single reason why you wouldn't be able to do it?
No, there's not. There's not.
Okay.
A single reason, not a single reason. There are more reasons too.
Okay.
There are no reasons not to.
Okay. I like it. I like it.
Hey, Doug, it's Kristen. I just wanted to let you know I'm finally on.
Hey, Kristen. Sorry about the mix-up today. I'm
Oh, that's okay. Hi, how are you?
I don't know what I get so confused with people's time changes, and I do about 8 of these classes a week. It gets a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah, sure.
So, hey, we got to settle up. Hey, Tony,
Howdy.
what's up, buddy? So Kristen has a bet to settle up with
me.
We all need to figure out when she's gonna settle it up.
Oh, well, I was going to surprise you.
Okay.
Actually, it's a great time because it's Halloween, so it was easy to get face paint.
It will be.
Did you tell
I did
Linda
not.
our bet?
I did not.
No.
I heard it. I heard it on the recording.
What's the bet?
Oh, funny.
On the recording? Did we do it on the recording? I guess we did. It was last Friday, wasn't it?
Yep,
that's
Linda,
right.
last week.
Up by then.
Last week, Kristen went to the Notre Dame football game on Saturday, which they played host to Michigan State University, which is a team that's near and dear to me. So in the past, we have had, much like every college town, we have a rivalry with Notre Dame, and I figured instead of making the game just a passive entertainment, I figured let's make it a little bit more interesting. So Chris and I bet whichever team won straight up, the loser would wear the other team's colors and face paint on their face and post it on Facebook.
Yeah, I wasn't really happy at about midnight on Saturday evening.
I was in my backyard.
Yeah.
I put up my big movie screen in my backyard and was watching it. I was laying on the grass. I had a few too many beers, and I just kept thinking to myself, I can't wait to see what Kristen looks like with green and white face paint.
I thought maybe you were going to forget, but I knew I wouldn't be that lucky.
Oh, no. Just as much as you would never forget if I lost. So we'll have a couple more years of this. This will be good. Hey, Linda and I were talking just a second ago about really, I don't want to say it was motivation, but there's opportunities everywhere we look, and sometimes it just takes a little bit of a shove by somebody to get the ball rolling a little bit. How has your week, because I talked to Tony earlier this week, but Kristen, how's your week been?
Good. Kind of similar to last week in the fact that I've just been able to get some more, proactiveness going in the mornings and more meetings because of my proactiveness, that kind of thing. So
you get 2 hours. You give yourself 2 hours of no interruption time in the morning to make your calls?
Right. Yep.
How's that been?
I've done it a lot better the past couple of weeks than the rest of the year. So
Right. And that's because Kathy and Sean are finally kind of living on their own a little bit?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're in a good flow. I mean, we can always tweak and improve, and there's a lot of room to grow. But I think we're in a good enough flow that's relieved me to be able to spend more time, being proactive. I'm not doing much at all when it comes to the transaction.
Okay. Why have you found the passion in making those calls? Like, what gets you excited about doing those 2-hour calls every day?
Well, one, I love doing it. I enjoy it. It's not. I know some people, in the Freedom Club and stuff we've gone there don't, but I really do. So I used to be more frustrated with the fact that I like to do it and could never get to it, kind of thing.
Right.
And I think the second thing is I really feel, I don't know what the word would be, I don't know if obligated or responsible for Kathy and Sean, and, they've chosen to come and work with me, and, they rely on me to have awesome jobs, and it's my responsibility to take care of them, I guess, if you will, and, be able to support them, and the only way that I can do that is by bringing in business. So that's a lot of pressure in a good way, I think, but, and they have income goals, and if we close, 10 a month, they're both super excited because they're making the money that they want to make.
Sure.
So that's a lot of it too, and I feel like I'm going to be more successful if I'm more consistent with making the calls and setting appointments and so on.
Right, right. So when you get up in the morning and you guys get your day started, there's not a debate in your head on whether or not you should be doing the calls or not. It's a matter of not only do I love it, but I almost have to do it.
Yeah, right, definitely.
Okay. Have you seen some pretty good results out of it? I mean, you can see yourself building momentum, and you can see that the conversations are turning into transactions.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I could give you a couple of stories that are direct, directly related, and then there's always those
Right.
ones that are kind of indirectly that you never know where it's going to come from. So
Of course,
just
of course.
putting
So then,
yourself out there really helps.
after you've done those calls for the 2 hours a day, tell me how your rest of the day feels. Do you feel like you're missing something, or do you feel like there's a book out there that Carl always talked about. It's called Eat That Frog, and it's actually
Right.
a really good book, and it always talks about
Yep.
taking and eating the one thing you don't want to do first thing in the morning to get it over with, otherwise it lingers in front of you the entire day. The reality is that you've chosen to do that first thing in the morning. Do you find that the rest of your day is a little less stressed, or a little less you're not finding what's the word I'm looking for? I know that when I didn't do something throughout the day, I always had a little bit of regret, and it always kind of stuck with me the rest of the day. Like, it always kind of attached itself to me, and I would never felt like, Linda, you and I were talking, I always felt yucky about it, but I always justified it because the reason I didn't get to it was something that needed, quote unquote, needed to be done. How does the rest of your day look to you when you get those 2 hours and you open up the door and you're like, all right, on to the next thing?
Right. Yeah. It's almost like it doesn't really matter what happens the rest of the day. Like if I don't do anything, then it's okay because I did what I needed to do. And don't get me wrong. I mean, there's a lot more to do, and I can jump in and do them, but it just feels a lot easier. It's like, well, it doesn't really matter. I did my work for the day, so I'm good.
Right. Right. You bring up a couple really good perspectives. The one is you choose to wake up every morning and actually honor your team by being the originator that you know you have to be, that you love being every single day. You know what your lane is, you're clear on it, and you stick to it. And you know that as long as you maintain your passion and you do it in your lane, the rest of the business kind of takes care of itself, correct?
Right. Yep.
Okay. Yep. The amazing part is when you spend the time being an originator and you make that commitment to yourself, the loan officer part of you begins to play such a smaller role because you start caring less about the loan officer duties, and it helps because you have a Linda and or a Kathy in your team. But it gives you that freedom to be present. And I think one of the greatest struggles that we all carry in our businesses is we're not very present when we're in our sales mode. Meaning to say that when we're playing the role of the originator, we have all this other drama and all this other stress on our plate from what happens in a day-to-day, in our businesses day-to-day, but each of you have a team that supports you. Where you spend your time during the day, and Tony, we talked about this earlier today, it's about being passionate about what you love to do, what you know you're good at, and staying in your lane. And the beauty of it is that both of you are now finding kind of the joy in this business, in the sense of Kristen and Tony, when you're talking about home benefit IQ, and Kristen, when you're making your calls, doesn't it really feel like you finally are at a place where you're loving your job again, or you're loving your business again?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
No doubt.
It's amazing.
Yep.
There's no question.
Tony and I had a similar conversation today about my career path led me through, and I had shared with him, I said, I would never want to own a company again. I spent 5 years running a company with 2 other business partners, and I've made the decision in my life that I would never, ever, ever go down that path again because I'm not passionate about it. Where I'm at today, I'm passionate about. I'm in my lane. I'm not passionate about writing loans. I'm passionate about helping people and building up other businesses within the organization and helping everybody else kind of avoid the missteps that I went through. The beauty of it is that I'm home and I'm a happier person. and how much of what we do every day either helps us happier or hurts us and makes us unhappier. Since I know that you were successful in your own right for the first part of the year, you know that you could have done better. Tony, the same thing holds true. But now that you guys are in your lane, the money is almost secondary currently to the fun and passion and the clarity you guys are doing. I mean, I love hearing what you're doing on a daily basis, especially consistently.
Right.
Doug, say that again. I cut out on my end a little bit. What about consistently?
It's awesome to see you guys being in your lane, because when you're in your lane, it's amazing how consistent we can be. I've heard it said 1,000 times, time blocking, time blocking, time blocking, and 1,000 times people fail at time blocking. And the reason we fail at time blocking is because what we're time blocking for, we hate doing. And when you finally get to a place where you can spend the time doing what you love, it's not time blocking. It's just, it's commitment. And so kudos to both of you guys.
You mentioned Eat That Frog, and one of the things that's a concept, or that book I know intimately because I read it, and it's part of the well, what is it? The Farming Your Database class. Is it Farming Your Database? No, it's the 80-20. It's part of the 80-20 class.
Oh yeah, sure.
So, and the thing about eating, I choose not to eat frogs because it's not something that you can do, that you can sustain. It's not sustainable. Eventually, if you have to wake up and eat a frog every single day, if you know you don't like doing it, eventually it's going to stop. Now, you can do anything for a season. I understand that. But if you know what your 20% is or your 10%, and just like you said, staying in your lane, you're doing the stuff that you love to do, that you're good at, and you delegate your frogs to the people that don't see them as frogs, then
there are certain things.
That's when the team crystallizes.
Right. Here's what I would say. Here's what I would say to that. We all have strengths and weaknesses when it comes to leadership. I talk to LOs on a daily basis who have been told that one of the best ways to curtail in-office drama or to curtail in-office inadequacies is to do daily team meetings. Daily team meetings once a day. I have a hard time believing that that's anybody's passion, but that to me is an example of a frog. When you're a leader of an organization, when you're a manager of a team, it may not be your passion, but in the inherent role that you've taken to be a leader of your group, you have to learn how to become either excited at it or passionate about it, and in doing so, you have to get up every morning and eat that frog. It isn't so much to say that you have to jump in another person's lane, as it much to say as in your lane, you have a variety of different roles and responsibilities. Some are good, some are not so good, but they stay within your lane. And the idea of eating that frog goes back to, I know that in order for me to get my lane, there are certain little speed bumps that I'm going to have to patch over, and as much as I hate doing it, I'm going to have to do it, which is I got to get up there and I got to be vulnerable with people. I got to get up there and I got to hold people accountable. I got to get up there and make sure that I'm in the meeting ready for it every single morning. That's what I kind of get to when I talk about eating the frog. Not so much doing the the loan officer duties and things of that nature, but more or less being a leader and being a driver of your culture and passion. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And that's, so what you just described is two different. I mean, that's two very different roles, right? So Krista and I are both we're both in production. Even though we're originating, we're in production. So we're the rainmakers for our team.
Yes.
So we have to wear two hats. We have to wear the production hat, and we have to wear the leadership hat.
Yeah.
So, and the non-producing branch managers who are just about recruiting,
Yep.
that's a very different. So they're essentially they're wearing one hat.
No, actually, I'm going to say they're wearing like 18
wearing
different hats. Because the non-producing LO, the non-producing branch manager, like a Kellen Vaughn, has HR responsibilities, legal responsibilities, budget responsibilities, P&L responsibilities, healthcare responsibilities. I mean, all of these HR stuff compliant that you guys are taking trainings for or will be taking trainings for, these are the roles and the responsibilities that to stay in your lane and say, I just want to be a recruiter is virtually impossible unless you're willing to give up so much income to hire people to assess those other things. So every morning, like Ken Travis, for an example, has had or is having issue with some healthcare premiums. That's not something that allows him to recruit. That takes a large percentage of his time and day and energy to try and help figure out. It goes back to where you guys are at in the sense of, yes, you're wearing a production hat. Yes, you're wearing an entrepreneur hat. But I would say under that entrepreneur hat, you've got all of those other responsibilities that fall in there, that some of which you may not enjoy, you may not be good at, you may not be trained at. And that's really what, I'm hoping these calls will get to, is being able to avoid some of the stress that comes with inherently doing the daily team meetings. Because if you're passionate about, Kristen, like you've said, if you're passionate about making your calls and you love doing it, the only way that you're going to get the confidence to continue to make the calls is to see your team close the loans that come in as a result. And the only way that you're going to see that result is if you're constantly engaged in your team and have your finger on the pulse of, how's the team doing? How's the energy between Kathy, Sean, and I? How are they interacting with each other? Is there any drama? Do I hear any underlining challenges that are going on? How do I show up and make them feel valued and appreciated? A lot of the times, being an LO, that's not our nature. But when we get up and realize that because we're no longer having to do the loan officer duties, we have to learn how to become better leaders and better managers and better drivers of our culture, it goes back to sometimes we have to eat the frog in the beginning, and eventually we become clear on why it's the right thing to do, and we actually sometimes find that we enjoy doing it. How many of you guys do a daily team meeting consistently? Like every day, 5 days a week?
I'm not doing that right now.
Hey, Doug, I was doing it. I was doing it when it was just Bert and Leslie and me.
Right.
And then when we moved, when Linda came on board and we moved offices, those stopped. So I told Linda this morning that those that we're starting them up again first thing Monday morning.
Good, good. I love it. I love it.
You don't have to drive in Austin traffic. No, I'm just kidding.
So hey Tony, can you share with us a little bit of the success that you had in bringing Leslie and Linda and Bert on? I mean, you've grown since the time that you've joined our company. I mean, originally it was just you, and then you spent a lot of time trying to find the right processor. You got the processor on board. You've gone and evolved. Tell me a little bit about what you've. Tell me how you've changed.
I think about a conversation that you and I had a while back that was, and it was a very specific point that you made, and it had to do with an emotional attachment to the outcome of individual loans. You basically said you have to completely divorce yourself from caring about the outcome of the loans. You can't get emotionally involved in the loans. And at the time I didn't really understand that, because I think it was because I mean conceptually I understood it, but I didn't really understand what that meant, because I had never been in that space before.
Right.
But once Bert came on board and we kind of got through the onboarding process, and I saw him start to pick up, and the business was picking up. You know, it was still it was inconsistent, but it was still picking up. So I started to see the forest through the trees through the forest, or you understand what I mean.
Right, totally.
Wherever the cliche is. And then when I launched Home Benefit IQ and really started marketing this in earnest, and having the conversations that I'm having with people that I would never have conversations with as a mortgage person, then my vision expanded exponentially. And so a lot has changed. Like my thought process has changed dramatically even in the last 3 months. So now, just a little bit about me. One of the things that I learned about my personality type, and there's, I took some sales training from Sandler, and it's psychology, right?
Right.
And there are essentially two types of people. There are people that have a high need for approval from others, and there are people that don't have that need for approval from others. And the people that don't have a high need for approval from others tend to be the most successful in business, because those emotions dictate our decision-making process, even the smallest decisions, and those decisions impact our day-to-day life and our businesses.
Right.
So what I've learned is I'm part of the majority that I have a high need for approval from others, and now that I recognize that, I can consciously make decisions in spite of how I feel.
Wow, amazing.
So, and
really cool.
So what's happening is that I'm becoming, my disc profile is shifting.
Wow.
Okay. From an IS to a higher D.
Wow. All right.
In the business context, I'm still
totally get it.
I'm still naturally an IS, but in the business development space, I'm absolutely operating as a D.
Got it. Totally good.
Or I'm moving in that direction. Put it that way.
Sure.
So it's becoming
an evolution for you.
easier for me to make those.
Well, right. I love it. And the DISC assessment, it is very awesome, because I think the way the DISC profile says that we all have tendencies, and the person that knows how to identify what their strengths and weaknesses are, I think you can also kind of control it a little bit. Like, you know when to be a driver, you know when to be an I, you know when to be an S. Mm-hmm. Maybe you possess a little bit of all. I think it makes you extremely adaptable to just about any situation, which is what, I think makes you extremely successful. Both of you guys started this year off with, I would say, drama a little bit. Mm-hmm. Kristen, I know you had some drama internally at your office.
Yeah.
And I know,
right,
to say the least. So tell me how you guys avoid getting back to that. Like, what have you guys put in place, or what have you guys recognized? Because we're always going to be challenged with our employees' personalities or our team's attitude. We're always going to have conflict. We're always going to have drama, because people are messy. So what are you guys thinking about as it relates to, now that I've got this thing going and I'm in my lane, how do I keep it so that I stay in my lane? Like, how do you keep it from derailing again?
Derailing?
Kristen? Yeah.
Well, I think Tony just made a really good point, and when he was saying that about needing approval and not, making good business decisions because you need that. I mean, I'm a prime example of some of the decisions on my team, over the past year, which suffered my production. So I kept a loan partner for 6 months plus longer than I should have, probably a year longer than I should have, for that very reason, because I felt bad letting her go for all sorts of personal reasons she was going through, right? So my production suffered because of that. And then I had an old friend come back in the business in January that ended up being a total train wreck. And she would have been here even longer if it wouldn't have been for Scott and Doug kind of stepping in. So obviously I still have some work to do on that NETO approval and having the high I versus, you know, the decision-making D that you need to have. But I think going through those experiences, kind of to your point, Tony, you know, I can consciously recognize them more, and I know how bad they are for my business and my production and just my livelihood going through that nonsense. So I think it's going to be easier to make decisions faster when you start seeing those kinds of things happening, because you know how much it will affect your success and just your overall happiness. And life is too short to go through those kinds of things. So I'm going to, if I feel one way and feel bad, I'm still going to make the decision and take the action anyway.
I want you guys to be selfish a little bit. Both of you have entered into an arena where you guys are hitting your stride, say. I want you guys to be extremely selfish and extremely protective of the environment that you've created today. I want you to be extremely clear that what you guys have today took a lot of work and a lot of sweat and a lot of blood to get to this point. Now that you're finally there and you're starting to see results, please understand that the greatest reason why your teams derail has nothing to do with the company. It has everything to do with the manager, the entrepreneur, you guys, your relationships with your team. The relationship doesn't mean you're all sitting around in a circle playing duck, duck, goose and hugging on each other. It means that you guys are all very clear on what each of your roles and responsibilities are and hold yourselves and each other accountable to those. Linda, that goes both ways. The reality is that when you guys are protective of what you know is right and with what you know works, you become less likely to want to jump into somebody else's lane, and the opposite holds true. I want you guys to be selfish right now. For the next 6 to 12 months, you guys have built a team that can sustain the business that each of you have dreamed about since last year. Your goals and volume-wise, you guys with the teams that you have in place should have zero reason to not hit them. The only reason you won't hit them is because of emotions and culture shifts, whether that's personality changes, whether that's drama, whether that's bickering, whether that's some kind of chaos because people are messy. Your number one responsibility is to wake up every day going, how do I keep my team intact, happy and healthy and moving forward so that I can get to my 2 to 3 hours a day of calls, and that's where I want to be. That's what you have to fight to protect now. You've built it. You've gotten to that point. You've got the right people on the bus. They're in the right seats. How do you protect it? And that's really one of the reasons why this call was originally started, was because I wanted to teach Linda and Kathy the value of providing relationships within the clientele that they're dealing with, because that gives you, Tony and Kristen, the chance to see the results of your team without having to micromanage them, which takes you away from what you guys should be doing in your lane.
Yep.
Therein lies the bigger picture.
Yep.
That's what I love about these. I mean, you guys are there, components in place. All right, let's get this thing going. So I want you guys to really spend the next week, if you don't mind, really making a commitment to doing those daily team meetings. And the daily team meetings are not production-related meetings. That is nothing what these daily team meetings are, at least the first 15 minutes. I believe that the daily team meetings is to essentially walk up and put your thumb on the pulse of what's going on in on your team. Some of your team members are local, some of your team members aren't. Both of you share very similar models right now. Have a pulse. It's shut your computers off, turn your phone on, sit in front of me, let's have a talk. Let's have a heart-to-heart. What's going on? Have each of your team members come up with a motivational speech, a motivational quote. Doesn't matter. Get people engaged. Nobody should be quiet on the phone. It should be an open forum. What's going on? What's happy? What's working? What's not? I'm reading a book by John Maxwell called Great Leaders Ask Great Questions, and I started to implement this in my personal life with the kids. And a great leader asks, or a great parent asks their kids 2 questions every single day. What did you learn, and what did you fall in love with? What did you love most about today, and what did you learn about today? I think that doesn't have to apply just to personal lives. Why not ask your team, what did you love about yesterday? What did you learn yesterday? And it could be something as I learned how to plug in a phone, or I learned how to, it doesn't matter. It gets the conversation rolling. And I think if you do it consistently enough, the meetings can start to be fun and pretty lighthearted. And that's exactly where you want that team to be. You want it to be on autopilot.
Well, I'd love to get some advice from you guys. And Tony, maybe since you did these before, you could, because I get a lot of pushback from my team when I talk about having a daily meeting. I mean, even a pipeline meeting, I get a ton of pushback from Sean on that all the time because she's so busy. She doesn't have time to, take away to do the meeting. So she over and over tries to get out of it. Can we move it to tomorrow? Can we move it to an hour? Can we,
Tony,
I already told Kathy everything that's going on.
Yeah.
We don't need to meet.
Tony, before you jump in, I have a suggestion.
Sure.
Kristen, how many times a day do you talk to Sean?
Like verbally or email, text? I mean, we do all 3.
Doesn't matter. How many times a day do you communicate with Sean?
On the low end, twice. On a high end, 10 times.
I'll give you 2 to 10 reasons why you need to have a daily team meeting. Would you like to share them with me?
So,
I will give you 2 to 10 reasons why you and I and Kathy need to have a daily team meeting, period. Because if you can't figure out what you need, it's not even a matter of not talking. I'm not even saying that. I'm saying that the call to Sean should come from you. I think if you're doing anything with Sean, it's the check-in twice a day, once at noon and once at 3:30. How you doing, Sean? How's it going? How are the things doing that you said you were going to get done today?
And I get a very irritable response when I do that. Like, you're bugging me. Leave me alone. I just want to do my job and get done. I've got this handled. You don't need to check in on me.
Part of her job and responsibility to you is to be proactive, not reactive. If you're not doing it, so I'll give you an example because I did them for years with my team. Every day, it wasn't a motivation. It was kind of rah-rah, but a lot of it was pipeline. And the pipeline meeting was every day. My team came in. So let's just use Monday as an example. So Friday night comes, they turn in a sheet on Friday night of everything that they were supposed to get done Friday. They send me over a copy of it. Usually it was just left on my desk because it was handwritten most of the time. I would get in early on Mondays and I would look at the list of things, and that was the point of conversation that I started the meeting with on Monday morning when they showed up at my office at 9 o'clock. Here's the list of things that didn't get done, which now became the priorities for the Monday as we talked through all the details that needed to get done for the day. Once I did that, once I gave everybody their kind of like quote-unquote marching orders, most of the time, they never came and talked to me because they knew what they needed to do, they knew what the priorities were, and more than likely they had the means to find out the answers. They didn't need to bother me. My job is not to answer your questions throughout the day, Sean. My job is to originate. That is my lane. If you need a question, you have Kathy to talk to, or feel free to reach out to, in this case, Jackie or somebody else. But you can't do that unless you're doing a daily team meeting and engaging with them and being engaged with them for at least a couple times a day. But it shouldn't be on their time talking to you. It should be on your time talking to them.
Hey, Kristen, is Sean your processor?
She is. Yep.
Okay. Right.
She's my processor. And even with Kathy, Doug, this might be a side note. I don't know if you guys all want to be on the call, but I'm getting pushback for her even coming to these meetings because I'm getting the same thing of, you know, I've got 2 pre-approvals and you want answers by the end of the day. I can't take an hour out at 2 o'clock if you don't want those done. Which one do you want me to do? I can't do both. So I'm kind of getting that, you know,
Let me ask you,
dealing
hey,
with
Kristen,
transaction stuff.
how long does it take to do 2 pre-approvals, really? I mean, I used to be able to pre-approve a buyer. Now, I'm not even going to say what I used to do. Well, how long does it take for you to pre-approve a buyer?
Yeah, I guess it depends on the client. I mean, if it's simple, you know, 5 minutes.
On average.
If it's
On average.
complicated, 30 minutes.
30 minutes, so an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So, Kathy, unless you can tell me what you do with the other 7 hours, I expect that you're going to be on this call, or if you don't plan on being on these calls, then 2 different issues. One, the coaching call that we're doing is purely voluntary. That's something that I think you can communicate to your team if you choose to. You can share them in the daily team meetings. I, however, would not deviate one bit from my team. They will not deviate from my daily team meetings to talk about our pipeline and to talk about what's going on in the team every single day. If Kathy's talking to you throughout the day about questions about files that are going on, there's the reason, one, that they should be doing a pipeline meeting with you every single day. Because right now they're in reactionary mode. There is no proactiveness. How many times do you talk to Kathy throughout the day?
Just
More
a
than
couple.
2? Okay.
Yeah, probably 2 to 3.
Okay. And everything else she has handled? Okay. Then make it a quick 15-minute little powwow. I literally will want you on the call at 8, and we're off by 8:15. Not a second more, not a second later. Done. That's it. 15 minutes. What's going on? How are you guys feeling? Is there anything you need? Because let's be honest, this isn't for them. You are already being positioned by your team to tell you that they know what's better than you do about your team. They're not interested in doing anything other than their job. The one thing I told you need to protect is the culture of what you've built. And right now, you won't have a clue of what's going on with your team unless you're talking to them together every single day. It's non-negotiable. 15 minutes. That's it. If you can't give me 15 minutes, then I'm sorry, then we might have to restructure your job contract. I don't know a single person who can't give me 15 minutes a day. And you're paying them. You're my employee. You're not going to push back on this. It is non-negotiable. Make this commitment to me. Just make the commitment to them as well. I want a daily team meeting for 30 days. No ifs, ands, buts about it. And after 30 days, we'll reevaluate it. But I need each of you to make the commitment that you will be in a meeting with me every morning for 15 minutes. You don't have to do a pipeline meeting if you don't want to. I think that's foolish, but I think I don't think you have to, but I think it's imperative with what your teams are doing right now. Sean's in another location, Kathy's in your office, and both of them have pushed back on it. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were the one that was paying the bills here. You can't seek validation from them. You have to see value in the meetings first. I guess that's where it starts.
Right.
Think about it for yourself. I will tell you that any successful loan officer that I know, Todd Barr, Jamie Benner, the Kennedys, I know that Kellen Vaughn, I know that Ken Travis, I know that those are the ones I know for 100% fact. Every single morning they do a daily team meeting. Ken Travis does it with 9 LOs. Every LO is on the call. Every LO is on the call every morning. It's non-negotiable, but that's a tone that you set. You have to be the one that makes the decision. I'm telling you, if you don't, you're missing out on it'll be impossible for you to avoid problems, and your team will derail you'll never catch it before it's too late. This daily team meeting is not about taking time away from their business to do their job. It's about making sure that everything is going as planned. It's like driving in your car and having your eyes closed. Yeah, you might drive fine for several miles if it's a straight, but as soon as it turns a little bit, you're going to drive right off the road, and you won't see it coming. That's what the daily team meeting's about. Does anybody understand that?
Idea of the team. I like the idea.
So
Well, that's
Tony,
great.
yeah,
I wish my people thought that.
yeah, the team meeting, what I thought it was great because I felt like to your point, Doug, I felt like I had my finger on the pulse of what was happening. So if there was a call for help, if I needed to jump in and talk to somebody, somebody had some ruffled feathers, just whatever the case is,
right,
then I could assess whether or not I needed to intervene, or if I just needed to coach Bert through a situation. It didn't happen very often, but it gave me the opportunity if necessary.
It's also a good time to pass out compliments. It's also a great time to pass out compliments as the branch manager. Kathy, thank you. I love what you did. Awesome job. Thank you so much. And it's acknowledging her in front of Sean and doing the same thing for Sean. It's also a great way for everybody to open up. Just try it for 30 days, kiddo. I'm telling you, I promise you, you will not regret it, and it'll help you protect what you've got.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Linda, get ready for this, because this is something I learned. I learned from my wife. So my wife does a daily huddle with her team, and one of the things that everybody has to come to the meeting with is, I'm awesome because, and then fill in the blank.
I won't have a problem with
So,
that. Oh, that's fun.
I love it.
Yeah,
I still give good
just
phone.
something that. There you go.
And it's a
So
skinny
we'll have
caramel, skinny
we'll
caramel
implement that.
macchiato with cinnamon. Okay.
There you go.
You got it.
Kristen, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it sounds great. I'll give it a whirl.
Can
Start
you
next week,
see
30 days.
Can you see the why behind it?
Mm-hmm.
What do you see as the why?
Well, I think it's more about than just doing the daily tasks, which are important. But like you said, there's no depth or culture involved with that. That's just doing your job. And I don't really want to have a place where people just want a job necessarily. So if they're just coming here to do a job, then it may not be the right place.
Right, right. And that's really what you have to instill upon them. That's where your role needs to come in, and the pushback you're getting is because it's alien to them. They're not used to that situation. You know what I mean? They've never been in a company that needs that. They're coming right now to a job, and that's what you're giving them by allowing that to happen as a job. And you can say that to them on the first call. The reason we're doing this is because this is not just about a job. I take what we're doing here very serious. I need this for my sanity, just like I believe you're going to need it for yours. But just because you've never experienced a company that provided it doesn't mean that it's not a good benefit. So, I love it.
Yep.
30 days. All right, guys. That's it for me today.
I'm in.
It was a great call. Appreciate it. You guys have a great weekend.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. Thanks,
Kristen, I'm
guys.
playing Wisconsin this weekend. You want to throw a bet on that one?
No.
What happened in Notre
We're
Dame?
playing Duke.
What happened?
Yeah, I know. The third quarter just was awful. Fell apart. I don't know. It's going to be a rough season, I have a feeling.
Tony, are you a Texas fan? Are you a Longhorn
My dear,
fan?
nope. I went to A&M.
Okay,
Ooh,
cool.
you guys are ranked number 10. You guys are up there with us.
That's right, buddy. You got it.
You and
All
I
right.
had a lot of fun. I'm a Red Raider.
Well, that's okay. That's all right.
Hey, Mahomes is doing good. Mahomes is on track for the
I love it.
Heisman if that can